All right, friends. What's going on, patrons? Good to have you all. This one's going to be a bit shorter than the last one. And I kind of clipped a little, some fewer amount of clips just so we can get through them and hopefully answer any of your questions. Here we are. We're breaking down Game 4 of the Knicks Miami series, which did not go well. You guys may have noticed. Someone type in the chat or give me something so I know that people hear me. Hello. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to focus on something that bothered me about that game more than anything else. Hey, Ray. Hey, Dirty Dancer. What's going on, everybody? And that was the lack of attention to detail, particularly on the defensive end. And obviously there are some examples that you don't need me to break down for you, right? The turnovers that led to direct baskets, the not getting back on defense. Everybody with any kind of platform tweeted out a bunch of clips of Julius Randle not getting back on defense, not playing defense hard. I mean, the effort stuff, I don't think you need my help for. But I'm going to try to go through a couple of plays defensively where the Knicks just weren't on point. And against this team, with the amount of motion that they run, the amount of screens that they set, you really have to be on point. And if you are, you can force them into some bad shots. But I didn't think the Knicks did a sufficient job understanding their coverages, being aware of man and ball, like stuff like that you just have to clean up if you're going to win the second round of the playoffs. And the Knicks just aren't doing it consistently enough. And so that's what we're going to focus on as we go through. You guys will ask questions, and I'm happy to answer any of them and all of them. But let's get started. So let me share my screen here. All right. All right. Going to start here. Now, this play, I think, was all over Twitter for some specific reasons. Now, this is a terrible basketball shot. 17 on the clock, 9-7 Miami. Fadeaway 3 over Bam. Two-handed contest. Just a horrendous shot. The Knicks can do better than that. All right, but he took it. Now, let's watch all the Knicks, and I think this is something to focus on. RJ, frustrated the shot was taken, right? So you see this a lot with the Knicks, unfortunately. Watch his arms. Ah, man, right? There's that. What there isn't is one of two things. And in transition, you have to do one of two things. The Knicks obviously crash the boards very hard. RJ from the corner has license to come in and crash the board. Doesn't do that. If you're not going to crash the board, as you may well be able to guess, what's your assignment? You got to get your tuchus back on defense. This is a lot of ball watching here. So RJ's watching. Mitch doesn't even go for this board. Grimes is getting back. Julius is already behind Bam. All right, so now look at this. You got 3 Knicks down here. So there's actually an odd man rush up ahead. Now watch how the Knicks try to match up here. Brunson ends up on Bam, which is fine. In transition, sometimes you're going to get some bad matchups. Now Mitch is trying to run back into the paint, I suppose, to help Grimes with Butler. Okay, I can understand that. RJ, I think, sees Vincent, so he's technically matched up. Okay. Julius is on Love, but now who's communicating the trailer? It's a little too late, right? It's just a lack of urgency and communication to find the trailer, who's their best three-point shooter, by the way, and has been all playoffs. And that's the kind of stuff you can't give up. Like that look right there, as clean as can be, nobody in the picture. On a missed shot, this wasn't a steal, right? But it's just not enough urgency and communication early in the game getting back on defense, and you give up 3. Attention to detail. The little things. All right, let's follow the next clip. All right, so we're going to see here. Let's set it up. Let me stop for a second to make sure. Can everybody see? Okay, good. All right. So let's head back to the film here. All right. Jimmy Butler bringing the ball down court. Grimes, we know, started on him. This is later in the first. Brunson's guarding Strus. Now, as I've said many times now, and you may have seen, I don't think he should be guarding Strus. I think Strus has hurt us very badly in this series, and I think asking Brunson to navigate all the screens that he sets and the cutting and the fact that he's making catch-and-shoot threes over him, I just think it's a big assignment for Brunson. I'd rather him guard Gabe Vincent, who struggled since that one game that he had was a good game, and I just think forcing contested shots from Gabe Vincent is a much better solution. But okay, he's guarding Strus here. Now, Strus is going to go set a screen for Jimmy Butler. We know the Knicks don't want to switch that screen, right? So Brunson is going to show, because if he doesn't show, then Butler theoretically could just use the screen and have a downhill attack. So he's got to show and get him away from the screen. Now, what I want you to watch and pay close attention to is Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson, the man who says that he has to help on every play and blaming other people in his tweets for not playing good perimeter defense, not explicitly, but at least implicitly. What is he doing here? Anybody who's done any kind of shell defense knows the ball's this far away and you're on a non-3-point shooter. Where should Mitchell Robinson be? He should be at least with a foot in the paint. What is this? Now, Brunson shows he's got to recover. Julius is guarding Love as the screener, so he can't really drop. And RJ is on a shooter in Vincent. So it's a bit of a tough play. You basically run an empty corner pick and roll between Butler and Strus, which is attacking Brunson. And so Jimmy reads the show. He reads that there's no help behind. Now, if Mitch reads this decently or at all, or reacts, or isn't stuck in the corner guarding Adebayo as if he's Max Strus, this pass may never be made. And generally, Strus would fade out, and Brunson might be able to recover to that. But Strus is like, wait a minute, I have the whole half of the court here by myself. And Mitch is just, what's he looking at? You have to see this. You have to anticipate this. I mean, he still hasn't moved. The ball's in the air. And now it's too late. I mean, that's just atrocious. Let me ask you this question. How many uncontested dunks or layups in the half court have the Knicks gotten? Right? And that is the sign of a defense that's locked in. You're not going to get that easy stuff. You're just not. And yeah, RJ's had a couple of pretty clean rim attacks. That's true. But anything like that, half the court is clean. Just really poor for Mitch to not recognize that at all in any way. And now Brunson maybe was a little slow on the show and recover. And Brunson, we're going to get to him, has been poor defensively in this series. I think it's a tough matchup for him. But look, yeah, Mitch, it's true. You have to help on every play. Some of your perimeter defenders aren't very good. But you know what? You still have to do it well. You still have to do it well. And that was just very poor recognition of a play that was pretty slow developing. And I just felt like, what's he hugging Bam in the corner for? Attention to detail, anticipation. Seeing your man, seeing the ball, stuff like that. That's just really hurting the Knicks in this series. The Heat just have the edge in all of those categories. All right, fast forward a bit. Again, the first quarter. Oops, sorry. Let's see. Josh Hart now in the game. He's guarding Lowry. Butler. Grimes is on Butler. And Butler's going to set a screen. Butler slips it. So the Knicks do the right thing. If there's no screen, stay home, right? No switch. Good. He'd have to go to another action. Nothing there. Now Grimes still on Butler. Things have gone well here. Now right there, let's again. Jalen Brunson's guarding a big-time shooter who's been knocking down shots all series. Knicks scheme says at least he should be a nail help, right? So meaning if Jimmy does drive right, they want Brunson to at least show him a body and then recover back to Strus. So I'm not blaming him here for being in this position. This isn't necessarily bad position. He sinks into the free throw line, but this, where are his eyes? Ball air. Ball's halfway. He hasn't moved. Those are the margins of a closeout. Is what were you looking at exactly? And why didn't you move with the ball? On defense, you're always taught, move with the basketball. You have to see the flight of the ball and you move with it. He should already be closing to Strus here. Right? Dangerous shooter. He's still trying to get there. He's barely moved. Ball's almost in Strus's hands. Well, now you're cooked. Now you're in trouble because you reacted very, very late. And your closeout, and we've seen the Knicks get blown by, closeout after closeout, and worse, in this instance, you're getting blown by middle of the floor. If Brunson positions himself so that Strus has to go right, well, at least Julius can offer help. Hartenstein's in better position. You move middle of the floor. Well, that opens up the entire floor for Strus. Hartenstein's dead middle. He has to help. Julius should have dropped. Missed it. Cody Zeller was on the baseline. Ref missed it. Attention to detail, speaking of which. And that's going to be a layup. It's the margins, right? It's that initial reaction to the pass to Strus was late by Brunson. You can see it. It's just he's not moving with the path of the basketball. It's a blow-by middle, which is not what you want, and it ends up in a layup. Refs sucking notwithstanding, right? This is not a play you want to give up. It's a play you need to be more attuned to when you're guarding a shooter like Max Strus, who's been destroying you all series. Pause there for a minute. Any questions, my friends? Let's see. Ryan, hi Benjy, not necessarily film related, but what is your opinion on how much a coach can coach effort? It's part of his job. It's part of his job. If your team requires a bunch of pep talks, then it's not a coaching issue at that point. At this level, it really shouldn't be too much responsibility on the coach, but no, there's definitely an element where players play hard for certain coaches and they have the ability to motivate. On the NBA level, it's hard with stars. It's really hard with stars because they just have all the leverage. Coaches are in and out. Coaches don't make $30 million, right? Like when you're a coach in college or a coach in high school, the bench is like a legitimate threat. Plus, you're the only one getting paid, right? It's just a very different dynamic. On the pro game, I don't pity coaches that try to coach stars and try to get them to play hard. Star players either are really hard-working guys or they're not. And that's kind of where I fall on it. But it's part of the job description. You have to motivate and get guys playing hard. At the same time, I think it's somewhat out of your control. Any other questions, guys? Otherwise, we'll move to the next clip. All right, let's move on. All right, now we move to the end of the first quarter. Man, this one pissed me off. Note the clock. Attention to detail. 5.3 on the timer. They're going to go to a high pick and roll with Zeller and Lowry. Hart's going to chase Lowry over. He's a threat off the dribble. That's fine. Hart is in drop coverage, which is fine to a point. We're now at 3.1. What are Lowry's options here? 2 seconds on the clock. Julius is in help. Hartenstein, Zeller's not even really in the picture yet, so the roll isn't that big of a threat. 2 seconds on the clock by the time Lowry raises up. Hartenstein, no contest. Releases with 1.2. Hart's trying to struggle back in. Like Hartenstein just needs to understand the clock and scenario there. You have to be contesting that jumper. You have a 1 point lead. You got to hold on to it. Gets the momentum going into the second quarter. That's just understanding time. Like Lowry doesn't have time to make a play. Once he snaked back that screen and rolled to the left side, it was always going to be a shot. It's just a lack of recognition by Isaiah Hartenstein. Too good of a look to a guy who's really feeling himself right now. It's frustrating, man. That's like, again, just like attention to the small things. You just conceded 2 points for absolutely no reason because you were covering it as if there was 8 minutes left. Like that shot is okay if there's 8 minutes left in the first quarter. Drop coverage is going to concede some mid-range jumpers off the dribble. You live with it, but not in that scenario, right? So just a poor job. Another clip here. We're 8 minutes or so left in the second. Heat run out of horn set. Lowry gets the ball. Martin clears. Duncan Robinson sets a back screen. Heat running there. They run a lot of stuff. They run a lot of good stuff. Haywood Highsmith heads up with the ball. Okay. What happens here? Highsmith, Robinson, Hart, Barrett. That's a clear switch. You'd always switch that. There's no reason not to. Both guys can guard both guys. Neither guy is that big of a threat. RJ Barrett's positioning here, as Robinson goes, he thinks he's just going to hand him off. But you have to anticipate that he can split this. RJ's fallen behind the play. They're not connected at all. RJ's looking to switch it. You can tell. It's not like he's like trying to stay with his man because Duncan Robinson's a shooter, so he should be tighter anyway. Well, what did you just let up? Well, now there was no advantage here between two non-threatening players. All of a sudden, we have a middle drive, and it's panic. It's a red alert. Middle drive, right to the rim. Hartenstein's going to have to come help. Here he comes. Bam's going to have position here, so I think that's Obi's got to come in front of Bam. Well, that leaves a wide open shooter. One swing, two swing. Pretty good job of recovery, but ends up with a shot. I mean, that one, it's like the shot that you ended up giving up wasn't bad, but mostly because Caleb Martin probably just should have shot that ball. Deuce McBride, of course, is able to rotate out really well. He's really good at that. That's probably a shot for Martin that he should take. So you kind of got away with it, even though you didn't get away with it because Lowry made the three. But again, it's from a process standpoint. Like, how are you allowing a split from Haywood Highsmith, of all people, when you just need to be tighter in your coverage? What's the positioning by RJ here? And he gets burnt. Sorry if you hear my daughter crying in the background. Hopefully I'm not needed. All right, let's see another clip. Hold on, I'm going to pause it there. Any questions? Ryan, I advise you to check out DJ had a thread or a video breakdown of this exact point about the offensive rebounds. My general commentary is that Tibbs often stresses in his press conferences how it's essential that his guards get to the elbows on long shots, on threes, because they're often long rebounds to that area of the floor. And if you watch the Knicks on those possessions, the guys who contested shots and the opposite wing, whoever else was out there, never got to the elbows. And the Heat guys all crashed into the elbow area and got rebounds. It's just, I think it was a fatigue thing. I think it was, again, another talk about attention to detail, just lack of attention to detail. It was just not good enough. I think, he played Brunson and Randall that whole half. I thought they looked exhausted. Grimes had played a ton of minutes. RJ played a ton of minutes. So I just think it was a combination of all those things. The Heat just better conditioned, more active. The Knicks, I think, let go of the rope a little bit. All those things play in. Ray says, is it me or do the Knicks look flat-footed? That's 100%. Yeah, they do. They look flat-footed. They're just not on the balls of their feet, ready to spring into action, where moving with the flight of the ball. They're reacting late instead of kind of forcing the action, being the first people to hit to force Miami to do what they want them to do. No, they're just reacting and they're behind. And that's why you just like general tenor of the game, you felt like they were scrambling on defense all night, flying out the shooters. Like, it wasn't that they weren't playing hard in the half court, with the exception of Julius Randle at times. They just weren't. They were putting themselves at such a disadvantage and having to scramble so often that it wasn't going to be a very good defensive performance. I think that's really what it comes down to. All right. This is what's called a double drag. You got two screens for Butler up top. Randall's on Love. Brunson again on Max Strus. Now, why did the Heat draw out this play? I'll tell you why. Because the Heat know that the Knicks will not switch Randall onto Butler and they will not switch Brunson onto Butler. They would switch Quentin Grimes onto Butler. Right? So they bring the two guys that the Knicks won't switch onto Jimmy. Here's my argument, though. Julius Randle should just switch onto Jimmy. Because whenever Julius does this show and recover, the Knicks end up in scramble. and we just talked about, they were just in scramble all night. One way to take away scrambling situations is to just switch and force guys to beat you off the dribble instead of conceding it. And what I mean by conceding it is you're asking two guys to show and recover. So Randall has to show he's going to try to get back to Love, and then Brunson's going to show and he has to recover. Well, how the hell is Josh Hart supposed to stay in front of Jimmy Butler? You have two screens, two guys who are showing, and Hart's just trailing the whole way. Now you give Jimmy that downhill drive where he's so good with his two steps. And he can just bump Mitchell Robinson off. Not great for Mitch. But to me, and we've been talking about this whole series, and this is more schematic. I don't think Julius is, I think in this case, Julius was probably executing scheme in terms of hedging, but I just think they should switch that action. It's not working what they're doing. Like the Miami's getting downhill. They're creating advantages consistently. You have to counter. And the only way to counter that kind of play is to switch somebody onto him. Now, I will say, when I say show and recover, you could be more active with it and really show out. Julius does. Brunson really doesn't because he's so scared of Strus slipping out. Brunson probably needs to get farther out here. Now, he may be still thinking about that play we showed earlier where Strus slipped right to the rim, right? But he should probably show higher so that Jimmy has to at least pause so that Hart can actually get back into the picture. So it's not perfect from Brunson, right? He's so far back, Butler knows he has this lane. But I don't know. To me, it's like we're letting guys get downhill because we're not switching. They know which matchups to exploit. So just switch it. Force them to beat you off the dribble one-on-one, and we can live with it. I think, look, you're down 3-1. It's an elimination game. To just keep doing the same things is the definition of insanity in this series. It's time to switch things up. And I think it's very viable for Julius Randle to guard me one-on-one. I think he can do it. Give him a step. If he makes a three over you, he makes a three over you, and stay with him. Move your feet. We know Julius is capable. I think he's better defensively when you make him do things like that. You keep him active. That's just a move that I would make. Any questions? Ben Kim Gervey says, regarding Julius guarding Jimmy, why are they so afraid of it? Ben, I don't know the answer, and I've been asking what exactly is Tibbs doing with Julius Randle defensively for 3 years now. And he generally plays him in drop or show and recover. He saw second half of this year, he really did switch him pretty aggressively. And I just thought it worked out for the Knicks. And I don't understand. I think generally Tibbs is so scared of Jimmy Butler. And you see it in the way that they double, and you see it in the way that they don't switch because they're scared of specific matchups. And you see it in the way they're going over every screen, right? And that's actually a good point. Let me flash back here. Another way to cover this, by the way, is for Josh Hart to say, I'm not trying to get over and getting beat to the spot. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go under, take this path, and meet Jimmy on the other side. But again, out of some kind of fear, and this is, by the way, we're not even near the three-point line. As I'm thinking about it, and thanks to your question, I'm thinking, why the hell are we going over this screen at all? You don't even have to switch this. You're 30 feet out, 35 feet out. Jimmy's not shooting from there. Try to meet him on the other side. Get around these screens. Don't make anybody show and recover. Everybody just stay home. But they're scared of Jimmy Butler, right? He's over that one. He's over this one. And now he's behind. Just go under. It's a great point. It's a great point. Ryan says, do you think Tibbs is also scared of Julius on the defensive end? It seems like he's so much worse off ball than on ball, though, to your point. Exactly, Ryan. I think that's the point. Is you might as well challenge the guy because what he's doing now off the ball is a disaster. So challenge him to guard people one-on-one. I think that's right. Ben says, is this a series when a player got in a coach's head? Has Tibbs gotten so terrified of Jimmy? I said after game one, I thought Tibbs, maybe because of their relationship and how much he thinks of Jimmy based on their time together, I think he has treated him like he's Giannis or he's Durant. And Jimmy's amazing in the playoffs, but he's not those guys. He relies on free throws. He relies on layups and offensive rebound. He's a bit of a garbage man on offense, and he's maybe the best at it. But the Knicks, I thought, could have a lot more faith in their defenders to do a decent job on him one-on-one and force other guys to actually make plays instead of just catch and shoot threes and layups. But yeah, I think that's right. I think the whole attitude from the outset, even starting Josh Hart, was, I thought, unless Grimes was truly unhealthy, it was like we got him, and then matching his minutes as if like Jimmy needs a designated defender when you have RJ and you have Randall and you have Grimes, like who are generally capable and who did during the regular season guard Jimmy pretty well. I thought the whole attitude was a bit off going into this series. Ray, the Knicks seem to have regressed on D against Miami. Is that because Miami has exposed the Knicks' weaknesses or because the Knicks have become disinterested and, as Julia says, don't want it as much as Miami? So I think, Ray, Miami does certain things that are particularly bad for the Knicks defense. Bam Adebayo being kind of a fulcrum and a dribble handoff guy out of the three-point line forces Mitch to come way out. And whenever Mitch is spread out, he's much less effective. Right? You look at the Cleveland series in contrast, where basically he sat back there and waited for Jared Allen, didn't have to guard him, because Jared Allen's a different kind of player, just kind of a roll man and a dunker, and Mitch just waited there and dominated. But in this series with Bam, it's not that Bam's killing him under the rim, it's that Bam is stretching him out. Not because of his shooting, because of his dribble handoff game. Because Mitch has to get out on guys like Strus and like Duncan Robinson and even Gabe Vincent, all these guys. So Mitch is out there. He's dealing with a lot of off-ball action. Miami runs a lot, other than Golden State, probably runs the most off-ball action in the league. And again, Mitch is not the best processor. The more you make him think about, the harder it is for him to contain. And that's true of Randall too. Just not a good defensive processor. You're running guys like Brunson and RJ through so many screens, not their strength. Right, the Knicks defense is kind of their base scheme is very effective in just like a general pick and roll offense, a very kind of vanilla one like Cleveland's, where everybody knows where they need to be on every play. Miami's kind of spontaneous. There's a lot of movement, and I think the Knicks really struggle with that and have all season. So I do think that's definitely part of it. Dirty Dancer says, do you think Mitch and Tibbs' defensive concepts are more applicable against teams with two traditional bigs? Yes. Absolutely, because I think they took advantage of that, the Knicks, to their credit, and said, we're not, we can basically sit in the paint. And not just the fact that it's two traditional bigs, but also the fact that it's more of a traditional offense. It's high pick and roll with point guards, roller, corner shooters. Like the Knicks, it was very predictable. And that's where the Knicks thrive, because their scheme is it's fundamental, it's well run, it's disciplined for the most part. But you start asking them to navigate a bunch of different actions, I think it's more of a struggle for the Knicks defense. Good questions, everybody, and thank you for them. All right. Let's move on to the next clip. What do we got? Inbounds play. Lovely. Man, this one killed me. Beginning of the third quarter, right? So we kept it at 8 despite playing a really poor first half, and felt like we could make a run to start the third maybe. What happens here? Grimes follows Jimmy through. It's an inbounds play that every team in the league runs to get their guy baseline. Knicks are in really good position here. I mean, okay, Grimes maybe took a bit to get through that screen. There's Mitchell Robinson. Looking at Jimmy Butler. What could go wrong here? You have your man in help. Grimes is chasing. RJ's there. I mean, what in the hell kind of help defense is that? First play of the third quarter. We're 15 seconds in. We're well rested. I'm trying to understand what Mitch was waiting for here to actually help. Now, does he see RJ, who also maybe could be in help because he was guarding the inbounder? But generally speaking, Mitch, your side of the floor, RJ needs to wall. One of you guys needs to freaking wall him off. How do you allow a simple inbounds play for their best player to get an easy and one layup with two guys reaching? What the hell is that? Can someone explain it to me? Uh-oh, Ben says we lost audio. Did anybody else lose audio? Okay, good. Sorry, Ben. I hope you get your audio back soon, but there will be, whatever you missed will be on YouTube later. I want anybody in the chat to explain to me what the hell that was. Attention to detail, like nailing the little things. Like, again, we talked about how good the Knicks are in their base scheme. That wasn't because the Knicks were in motion or spread out. Like, that was literally their best player caught the ball on baseline on a very basic inbounds play. Mitch is waiting there, and he lets him slip by in baseline for a layup. That's not good enough. 15 seconds into the third quarter. You don't deserve to win a playoff game on the road with that kind of effort and that kind of attention to detail. I keep going back to it. Like, that's a simple help assignment. Ryan says, might be confirmation bias, but I feel like there are a lot of situations where Mitch doesn't help because he sees someone else in the area and assumes he's going to do it instead. I've seen it happen with Julius, just wall off the paint. Exactly, Ryan. Your job, man, is to wall off that paint. That's just your job. There was no other threat there. Dirty Dancer says, Ray says, I think they were already running out of steam physically and mentally. Well, yeah, but that's not acceptable, right? I mean, that's... Dirty Dancer says, I think there might be a fear of collapsing since Miami is so good at swinging the ball. Mitch collapsing? He's on Bam. Like, what should he fear? I don't know. I mean, maybe, but it doesn't make any sense. All right, next clip. Maybe just one or two more here. All right, here's that double drag action again. 2 screens for Vincent. We got Love and we got Strus. Now, interestingly, so Randall's on Vincent, Julius on Love, and Brunson on Strus. But now Julius passes Love off to RJ, which I like. But I'm not worried about Kevin Love in the post on RJ. That's fine. So now we have a situation where technically Randall's on Vincent and Brunson's on Strus. Okay. Now what happens? Brunson shows because I guess he doesn't want to switch onto Vincent? Well, why? Well, now look what you created. We've talked about this in the first film session. Like, what are we so scared of? Why wouldn't Brunson just stay on Vincent? Julius Strus. They have no advantage. Vincent has to take Brunson off the dribble. Why are we basically have 2 on the ball? We're forcing Jalen Brunson to recover to their best shooter, who can now step into a 3 over a short person. I don't know, man. How many times do we have to see that play to kind of just figure out we should just switch this stuff? It's brutal. All right, let's see. This shouldn't be in here. It's a mistake because it's an offensive play. All right. I think I was supposed to select a different play there, and I picked the wrong one, but I don't know which one it was. And I have a daughter in the background screaming her head off, so I am going to take questions now. That's the end of my film session. I know we didn't get to the fourth quarter at all, but I think you guys get the idea. Like, the Knicks just weren't good enough on the defensive end. Paying attention, ball and man, help assignments, switching when they should switch, being tight on their coverages when they should switch. All the stuff that I just showed you is like, I don't know. It's cleanup stuff that they shouldn't be struggling with to this extent at this point in the season. Maybe it speaks to some fatigue, mental fatigue. They're hurt. But you know what? Everyone's a little banged up. And if this is the way you're going to treat a playoff game like this, you're not going to win them. And that's the end of it. I thought they actually played a decent offensive game last night, the Knicks. They got good production out of Randall and Brunson. I thought was really good. Grimes made a couple of threes. Their three-point shooting was okay. It wasn't as bad as it's been. They scored well enough to win this game, other than the turnovers, which again speaks to the attention to detail. But I didn't think the defensive intensity and the effort and the focus was good enough. Any other questions before we call it a night, my friends? All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. Sorry to cut this a little bit short. Just some stuff going on in the house. But I will see you guys again soon. Let's try to stretch this series out tomorrow night. Win it at home. Get to a game, 6, and move on from there. But thank you guys for coming out and listening. I really appreciate it. And keep supporting Knicks Film School. You guys are the best. Talk to you guys soon.